Are you a pretty good high school athlete who's dreaming of playing your sport at the college level someday? Possibly on athletic scholarship, which could pay for some or all of your college costs? Or are you a college freshman right now who's lucky enough to be on athletic scholarship? Do you know that in my consulting, what I consider to be the number one most overlooked thing when it comes to athletic scholarships? There's definitely one thing about them that you need to know. And it's such a common sense thing that it gets overlooked all the time. And if you do that, it can really get you into trouble. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. More on that in just a moment. Hi everybody, my name is Blake Starkey, and if this whole topic of trying to figure out how to go about getting yourself recruited is something you're trying to figure out, you're in the right place. I like to think of myself as your biggest cheerleader, advocate, and possibly asset. With my short videos, I work really hard to just give you the good stuff when it comes to you figuring out how to get yourself recruited. And I like to think I know a little bit about this because you see, for over 20 years, I was a high-level NCAA Division I head coach. I coached at 2 different major universities in 2 different Power 5 conferences. I've personally recruited and signed more athletes to full athletic scholarships than I could possibly count, and with what I do now, I've helped even more kids and more families with the recruiting process. So, I like to think I know a little bit about this, and it's just an area that I'm very passionate about. So by the end of this video, you're going to understand what I consider to be the number one most overlooked thing when it comes to college athletic scholarships. And definitely stick around until the end of the video, because if you do, I'm going to give you a chance to grab a completely free training that I personally put together. It's an amazing walkthrough. It walks you through everything you need to be doing from your freshman year all the way through your senior year if you really want to best position yourself to play your sport in college, no matter what sport it is that you play. Just trust me, it is a great walkthrough, and it is definitely something that you're going to want in your bag of tricks. So what is this one thing that's so important you really don't want to lose sight of it? And what we're talking about here is the contractual paper part of the athletic scholarship. All college athletic scholarships are 1-year renewable contracts. Now that sounded kind of important, so I'm going to say it again. All college athletic scholarships are 1-year renewable contracts. And with a lot of the people that I work with and just a lot of situations that I've seen, you would be surprised how many people lose sight of that. A lot of times when kids get scholarships, they think they're getting a deal for 4 years, and that's just not the case. What you're getting is you're getting a 1-year renewable contract. And it kind of sucks, but there are situations where college coaches get to the end of a year and they cut a kid. They remove a kid from their scholarship. So I want you to think about it this way. You ever have a job, or do your parents have jobs? Well, let's think of the scholarship very similar to jobs. Is it possible for somebody to lose their job if they are not doing a good job? Absolutely. And is it possible for somebody to keep their job if they're doing a solid or a good job? Absolutely. So if you think about scholarships, it's really the same thing. So what I'd like to do is while there's probably many ways to, lose a scholarship, I'm going to talk about 3 common ways that kids put themselves in positions where they lose scholarships. And then I want to come back and I want to talk about 3 common sense ways that kids can maintain scholarships. And then we'll just kind of close out with a couple of details that I just know from my years coaching. So the number one reason that I think kids can lose scholarships, kind of a no-brainer here, is just anything sketchy or anything criminal, drugs, anything along those lines. You are absolutely putting yourself in a position where your coach could cut you either immediately or at the end of the year. Athletic departments do not like anything that brings anything that just puts a team or their department in a bad light. And so if an athlete does that, they're going to get the consequences of those choices. Another thing that someone can do to possibly lose a scholarship is they can render themselves academically ineligible. I coached, and when I put a kid on scholarship, I wanted to put that kid out on the field of competition. And if I couldn't put that kid on the field of competition because they never went to class and they were academically ineligible, I was really annoyed. And so, yeah, there were situations going into that following year where I would look at this and go, I'm not going to roll the dice with you anymore. I want to get somebody else and put you on that scholarship. So, yeah, rendering yourself academically ineligible is a really easy way to lose a scholarship. Now, another one is now this is kind of a common sense one to me, is just being a general pain in the butt. If you're constantly creating a lot of drama, if you're constantly second guessing your coach, it's kind of that old thing, you're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. And so if you're part of the problem, sometimes you can really get in a bad way. And, the way it normally happens is coaches start having meetings with you, they start documenting it, they get all their ducks lined up, and then they get to the end of the year and they have a chat with you and they inform you that your services will no longer be required coming back the next year. And, look, I had to do it a couple times and I hated doing it. The way I always looked at it is like I didn't really do it. I was just kind of responding to the actions or the inactions of certain athletes on my team. But one of the things, it was always kind of the most common thing that I would hear is I would hear a kid say, you can't do this. I worked so hard for this. And I always thought to myself, I don't doubt it. I know you worked hard for it. I believed in you. That's why I brought you here. The problem is that as soon as you got that scholarship, it's like you stopped working. You stopped doing all of the important things. So those are 3 just no-brainer ways that people can go and just lose scholarships. So now let's go in the other direction. Let's talk about ways that you can maintain your scholarship so that when you get to the end of the year, your coaches just can't sign those papers fast enough to renew your scholarship going into the next year. And look, it's really common sense that this is going to be kind of the opposite of everything that we just talked about. So number 1, be a model student athlete, be a good teammate, be a good person on the team for your coach. That one kind of goes without saying. If you do that, don't bring any kind of sketchiness to your team. So, look, you got to understand, when you go to college, and I don't think it's any secret here, there's a lot of drinking, there's pot, there's all kinds of what other people consider to be sketch behavior. And just understand that if you go down that path, you are putting yourself in harm's way when it comes to your ability to maintain your scholarship. I think that's, kind of a common sense thing. Number 2, produce in practice. Produce academically. Don't ever put yourself in a situation where you're academically ineligible to where your coach couldn't put you on the field of competition even if they wanted to. Make your grades. They say the word student athlete in that order. You are there to be a student and get a degree. And so don't make sure that you're making your grades. And then the final one is again, don't be a jerk. Don't be the person that's constantly stirring up drama. One of the easiest ways is especially it's when your coaches aren't around, don't let a bunch of garbage go on the team, or at least you want to be the person who's trying to, keep those types of things from happening so that you can kind of maintain good team cohesion. But yeah, just don't be a jerk. So as I mentioned earlier, I want to give you access to this amazing resource. I personally put it together. It's a completely free walkthrough. It walks you through everything you need to be doing from your freshman year of high school all the way through your senior year. It takes into account all of the academic stuff, SATs, ACTs. It takes into account all of the NCAA stuff. It is a top-notch walkthrough. And again, it's something that you really want to have. So there's a link in the description below this video. All you've got to do is click and you can grab this walkthrough, and again, trust me, it's something that you really want. Now, in our next video, I'm really looking forward to this, and what we're going to talk about is a lot of times when I take on a new high school client or something like that, I deal with a lot of nerves, and I deal with a lot of, even though sometimes these kids are really good athletes, there's some self-doubt, there's a little bit of lack of confidence, and what I like to do, there's a little bit of mindset that goes behind that, and so I want to share that with you because I think you may find it beneficial. It may help. I know it's helped a lot of my former people that I've worked with and helped them get spots on teams. And so anyway, look, I want to wish you the absolute best of luck with everything you're doing, with your sport, with your classes, and just everything coming up. And looking forward to talking to you in the next video.